This is a recording of a Dvar Torah I originally gave on August 9th, 2025, Parashat Va'etchanan, at the Hebrew Institute of Riverdale. Bernard Horowitz. The controversy over 9 words. On occasion, when there has been something I thought interesting in an aliyah, I have taken the time to speak about it before actually laning that aliyah. This Shabbat, I was given the opportunity to do so in the Dvar Torah time slot. I want to talk about the Aseret HaDibrot, specifically the first 9 words of the Aseret HaDibrot. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Asher Hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit avadim. I am the Lord your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. I want to emphasize that I am by no means a scholar of biblical text, nor would I ever claim to be one. I will be basing my talk on the opinion and scholarship of Rav Mordechai Breuer Zal, perhaps the most authoritative modern expert on biblical text. The Breuer Tanakh has been my go-to standard for many years. Rav Breuer Zal's writing is voluminous and technical. I was able to find some articles and essays based on his work that were more easily readable. First, a little historical background. Cantillation marks, also known as Ta'amei HaMikra, or Trup, I'll refer to them as Trup throughout, are symbols found in the entire Tanakh that indicate how to chant the text aloud. They act as a musical notation system. They are found either above or below the words. They are also a guide for stressed syllables, as well as a form of punctuation, helping to clarify the structure and meaning of the verses. These marks were developed by the Masoretes, a group of Jewish scholars who meticulously transmitted and standardized the Hebrew Bible text. Their work spanned the 7th to the 10th centuries CE. The product of their work is often referred to as the Masoretic tradition. When the Masoretes set about to assign the Trup for the Aseret HaDibrot, popularly referred to as the 10 Commandments, they decided that both occurrences of the Aseret HaDibrot, one in Parashat Yitro and the second in Parashat Va'etchanan, should have 2 sets of Trup. The set that I read in Shul is called the Ta'am Elyon, the upper set, which is used for a public reading. The other set is called the Ta'am Tachton, the lower set, that should be used in a private setting, such as when studying the text. The use of the adjectives Elyon and Tachton, upper and lower, to describe these 2 sets is likely because more of the Trup in the Elyon, the upper set, appears above the words than in the Tachton, the lower set. This Dvar Torah is about the Ta'am Elyon. I'll say something a bit later about the Ta'am Tachton. First, a disclaimer. What you will hear is a very small piece of a very complicated Ta'am Elyon, Ta'am Tachton controversy. There are tens, maybe scores of variations that will make your head spin if you go down that rabbit hole. Today's discussion is much narrower. As I indicated, I will limit myself to what Rav Breuer Zal has written. Okay, here we go. This is how I did not lane the first 9 words of the Aseret HaDibrot this Shabbat. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Asher Hotzeisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeis avodim. That's a pretty dramatic rendition of God's power and majesty. The chanting of this Trup soars. That's the way I laned these words for decades, until about 15 years ago. It's probably the way virtually everyone laned these 9 words in the past, because that's the version that was printed in most every Chumash and Tikkun. But Rav Breuer Zal concluded that this is not the trup that the Masoretes originally designated. Modern scholarship has shown that this version is at odds with the Masoretic tradition. Modern biblical scholars studying early Masoretic codices, plural of codex, an unbound manuscript of some ancient writing, have shown this trup of these 9 words is not the authentic Masoretic Ta'am Elyon. But even so, it's what you'll find in the Art Scroll Chumash today, in the newer Koren Chumash, and in the majority of Chumashim. The earliest known Chumash with this change occurred 500 years ago, when the Venice Mikraot Gedolot was printed. Here's how I did lane these 9 words this Shabbat, when I used what, according to Rav Breuer Zal, is the original Masoretic version. Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Mibeis Avodim. That's a much less dramatic rendition. But that's not all. Changing the Masoretic version of the trup of these 9 words caused a structural change in the text. I'm going to lane each version of these 9 words again. Listen carefully and see if you can detect a different, very significant change in addition to the change in the trup. I'll pause briefly after I lane these 2 versions. First, the original Masoretic version, the way I laned it this Shabbat. Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Mibeis Avodim. Now, the altered non-Masoretic version, the way I used to lane it. Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Mibeis Avodim. If you detected that the first one, the original Masoretic version of the 9 words, formed a full independent pasuk, namely the first of the 10 dibrot, but that the non-Masoretic version of these words made up only a sentence fragment, you are correct. And there are consequences to the non-Masoretic trup being only a sentence fragment. It means that the 9 words that constitute the first of the dibrot must be combined into a single pasuk with the second of the dibrot. That means the Aseret HaDibrot Ta'am Elyon would have only 9 psukim rather than 10. And here's why this matters. The defining principle of the Ta'am Elyon, the version we lane in public settings as canonized by the Masoretes, is that each of the dibrot is to be wholly contained in a single pasuk, regardless of its length. Organizing the psukim this way, 1 pasuk for each of the dibrot, resulted in 2 very long psukim, dibrot 2 and 4, and 4 very short psukim, dibrot 6, 7, 8, and 9. And the Masoretes were apparently fine with that. So Masoretic Ta'am Elyon, 10 psukim, not 9. Somehow, this change from the Masoretic version caught on. Because of that, as I mentioned earlier, this altered non-Masoretic version remains in wide circulation today and is still used in communities around the world. Rav Breuer Zal wanted to change that, but it hasn't worked out that way. It's not clear why this change came about. One interesting suggestion is that since the first 2 dibrot are different in that they are the only ones spoken in first person, and possibly, some say, v'dibur echad, spoken in a single utterance, maybe they should be together in a single pasuk. Interesting, but obviously not a convincing argument for Rav Breuer Zal. As promised, here's a quick word about Tam Tachton, the lower set, as canonized by the Masoretes. Unlike the Ta'am Elyon, the Ta'am Tachton is not organized according to the individual dibrot. Rather, its organizing principle appears to be greater consistency in pasuk length. The long dibrot, 2 and 4, are broken into multiple separate psukim. The 4 short ones, 6, 7, 8, and 9, are combined into a single pasuk, resulting in 12 psukim in the Masoretic Ta'am Tachton. Here's how the first pasuk sounds. Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Mibeis Avodim Lo Yihye Lecha Elohim Acherim Al Panoi. The 9 words of the first of the Aseret HaDibrot again made up only a sentence fragment and needed to be combined with a fragment of the second of the Dibrot to form a complete pasuk. It's a strange arrangement. To tell the truth, I haven't been able to make any sense of it. Consistency of pasuk length does not speak to me as an important value. Back to Ta'am Elyon for some concluding thoughts. Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Mibeis Avodim. That's the way I used to read the 9 words. Those of you who have listened to me laying over these many years are probably aware that I try to read dramatically where appropriate, in order to infuse life into the text and enhance the experience of listening to Kriyat HaTorah, the reading of the Torah. That's what I did when I laned with this altered trup, and that soaring trup made it easy for me to do. When I first saw in my newly acquired Breuer Tanakh that the trup of the first 9 words of the Aseret HaDibrot in Ta'am Elyon was different from what I had been doing for so many years, I was stunned. I knew immediately that I would lane according to Rav Breuer Zal's version of the trup. He's Rav Breuer Zal after all. But this trup lacked the drama that I was once accustomed to. So at first, I used my voice to try to make it sound dramatic. Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Mibeis Avodim. More recently, I've pulled back from the drama and tried to figure out what the trup was trying to tell me. I thought of the Eliyahu story in Kings 1, Melachim Aleph, chapter 19. Ve'achar hara'ash eish, lo va'eish Hashem. Ve'achar ha'eish, kol demama daka. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still, small voice. I softened my voice. The words of the Torah expressed this fundamental tenet of faith as a simple declarative statement. And I'd like to think that the Masoretes decided to match that with simple, undramatic trup, as though saying, these 9 words need no musical embellishment. They soar all on their own. Hanochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Mibeis Avodim.